Well, yesterday, Kansas Senator Roger Marshall introduced a vote of no confidence resolution for Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
We've had enough of the failures from the Department of Homeland Security and believe that the Secretary is not fit to faithfully carry out the duties of his office.
That was Senator Marshall, and all of this represents really the first effort in the Senate to a parallel impeachment discussion, if you will, that's already underway among some representatives in the House. And so with no end to the border crisis in sight, and now with Title 42 set to expire next month, could Secretary Mayorkas finally face accountability for his ineffective performance and overall mismanagement of the southern border? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is U.S. Representative Keith Self. He serves on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, as well as the Committee on Veterans Affairs. He represents the 3rd Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Self, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you very much for having me, Jody. Good to see you on the show today.
Well, likewise, good to see you. You're looking great, as always, I might add. All right, let's begin. A scale of 1 to 10, 10 being outstanding, 1 being horrible. How would you rate Secretary Mayorkas and his performing his duties in regard to the southern border?
Well, Jody, he's not. I mean, the policy of this administration is an open border. Having been down to the border several times myself, I came away with the conclusion that the policy of the administration is an open border. So, I mean, doing his job is not the equation. The policy is an open border.
Which is unthinkable. I likewise have been to every sector in our southern border, and every time I leave there, it's like, I cannot believe this is happening in the United States of America. So let me ask you this. With the resolution that Senator Marshall put forward yesterday, do you think that this somehow puts Secretary Mayorkas on notice?
Well, he's doing as his boss wants him to do. I think who it ought to put on notice is the U.S. Congress. We are behind the power curve here to get this done. We need to be moving forward with impeachment. You heard Senator Marshall say that he would welcome the impeachment papers from the House of Representatives. We campaigned. Back in the campaign, you heard many Republicans say that Mayorkas was one of those that was going to have a reserved parking slot at the Capitol for his impeachment hearings. So let's get it done.
Well, that is a great point, and I really want to underscore that the one that really is put on notice with this, or ought to be put on notice, is Congress to do the job. I mean, here is an absolute failure. It's worse than a failure. This is almost like a deliberate attempt to open our borders and allow into this country who knows what, from criminals to, I mean, we could go on and on with this.
Right.
And you also mentioned something I want to come back to. Who ultimately is, do you think, and I know this is some degree speculation, but is he simply following orders from the White House, or is Mayorkas doing this horrible job on his own?
This is the difference in worldview between liberals and conservatives. Our view is he's doing a horrible job. To the liberals, he is succeeding. If you're going to change the culture of the United States, one of the things you've got to do is to import other cultures into the United States. Now, I know we need the workers, we need the labor force, but the way they're doing it, almost 90% of the illegal immigrants coming across the border now are single males. That is not a family unit that they try to tell us people fleeing from oppression. Single males do not represent family units coming across our border.
Well, and you're exactly right that what we're dealing with are 2 different worldviews altogether. And so we look at this as an absolute failure. Interesting that you say that the other side of the aisle looks at this as a success. But the secretary had 2, what I would consider disastrous days testifying before Congress this week. Do you think there is anything he could have said or done that would have changed people's mind who look at his performance as absolutely horrendous?
Absolutely not, Jody. What would he say? I mean, March, we had a 20% increase in illegal immigration across the border from February in 1 month, a 20% increase. And they're waiting for Title 42 to be dismantled on May the 11th. And that's when we'll start seeing the tsunami, because it will build slowly when people realize, yes, they really did do away with Title 42. So now I can start this. So tsunami, as you know, builds slowly, and you see it coming, and then it crashes over you. And I think that's what we may be facing if Title 42 does indeed go away.
Well, I think most people, our viewers, listeners, are probably familiar with Title 42, but just in case, what are we talking about for Title 42, and why is it such a big deal to be expiring here in a couple of weeks?
Well, Title 42 allowed the United States to expel the illegal immigrants based on contagious diseases. It's a holdover from the COVID days. But if it goes away, they will then be able to claim asylum, and we will have to process them under the normal asylum rules. And it would be a tremendous increase in the numbers of illegal immigrants that we would see coming across our borders.
Okay, we've got a minute left here. Let's say this whole impeachment stuff, what Senator Marshall introduced, what's happening, and the responsibility, as you say now, the ball in the court of Congress to do their job. Let's just say this goes through. What does a replacement look like? If they're taking orders from the president, would we get a replacement with just more of the same, do you think?
Well, certainly they would try. The president would try. He would nominate another ultra-liberal. But the confirmation in the Senate, because the Senate now understands what's happening on the border better. Now that they've started internally to talk about this, I think that it would be much more difficult for his nominee to be confirmed. So let's look at the confirmation process as perhaps the hurdle that he would have to cross next time.
Congressman Keith Self, thank you so much for your great insight and input this evening on Washington Watch. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Jody. Have a great day.